I'm Lily.
And I'm Jordan.
And we're the Drakes.
Welcome to Drake Academy. Since this is our first episode of Drake Academy, we kind of want to walk you guys about how we're going to structure these episodes moving forward. First, we'd like to start off with something kind of fun, a little icebreaker just to get warmed up.
Lorwyn spoilers.
Yep, that'll be today's topic. Next, we're going to get into the bulk of our discussions where today we're going to be focusing on coaching questions that Lily and I hear the most, how we answer them, and then how you can incorporate them into your own gameplay. And then we're going to wrap up with talking about the decks and the meta. Like every week, we just kind of want to explore how the meta might be shifting or changing so that when you go to your tournament for that week, you kind of know what to expect. During that time, we also would like to answer any questions from the audience we may have. I know obviously this is our first episode, so we're not going to have any questions this week, but in the future, we'd love to hear from the community. Let us know what's kind of going on. If you've got any questions about coaching, questions about decks, we just want to hear about them. We'll shout them out on air and we'll try to answer them as best as we can.
Yeah, so to kind of jump into it, I guess we will go to Lorwyn spoilers first.
Before spoilers, we have a message from our sponsor, Land Go. So this weekend is the Forest Fight event. We will be there, Lily and I, representing Team Monolith, the pro CEDH team that we're on. We're really excited about this event. We weren't sure that there were going to be a lot of people, but it's finally starting to bump up. We've got over 70 players now. There's going to be vendors. I think they're doing a legacy event. Would love for everyone to come out. You know, I know it's last second, but obviously if you can buy your ticket now, we'll see you this weekend. You can use code Monolith at the landgo.com website. You can use Monolith not just for this event, but for all future events and merchandise. Use code Monolith, you'll get 10% off.
Can't complain about 10% off. And as I have learned talking to people about this, CEDH players love to wait till the last minute.
They really do.
I think we saw 10 entries in the last 24 hours as we get closer to the event.
I think it was like 20, right? Because it was at 50 and then 65, then 75. I think it's 77 right now.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we got close to 100 by the day of, just because everybody's last minute. So. I love that for this format. It's
Why
great.
pay early when I can show up the day of and sign up?
I think it also falls around when a lot of people get paid, which is really convenient. So,
yeah, it's probably not an accident that the day before payday we get all the registrations.
Anyway, use code Monolith for 10% off.
Yeah, we're hoping to see you there. So, for Lorwyn spoilers, we're really excited about this set. I think it's the most CEDH-centric set we've seen in a hot minute. I can't even think of another set that's gotten this many CEDH spoilers. Can you?
I mean, Bloomborough, maybe, when we got Valley Flood Caller into the Flood Maw. That's the one that immediately jumps to my mind, but...
Maybe wait, when was MH3? Was that before Bloomborough? I think it was before Bloomborough,
Don't
right?
ask me to recall sets.
I think it was.
I just play the cards.
Bloomborough was like summer
Yeah,
time, right?
that's when we got that little otter.
I love that little otter.
I know.
Actually, you guys can see the otters behind us. I'm a big fan of otters. Yeah, I can't think of a CEDH-centric set like this. I mean, we've got Formidable Speaker. We've got, Squelching Hexer? Something like that?
Hexing Squelcher.
Hexing Squelcher.
There you go.
Some other just all these weird changeling cards that go with VFC.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some... I think Sisse got a card that's really interesting for them.
They did.
Magna got the artifact that's also a Kindred Dwarf, which is interesting. So really, really cool CEDH set. I think we generally don't think of these standard sets as something that's going to be very CEDH-centric. We got a big power boost for Modern Horizons, but every once in a while we get a banger set. I think this one is proving that it's going to be a banger. So Lily, do you want to start off with what is your favorite card from this set so far?
Yeah, no, so I completely agree with Jordan. This is shaping up to be a great set. So the first card that I want to talk about is Hexing Squelcher. 1 colorless, 1 red mana, creature, goblin sorcerer. Relevant text says, this spell can't be countered. Spells you control can't be countered. And it is on a 2/2. So obviously every red player is so excited for this. There is somebody in that room that loves Atali, that loves Rogsai. And as the resident Grixis / Blue Farm player, I am so excited for this card.
Well, Blue Farm won't play this card, right? There's no reason to? Or do you think that Can't Be Countered is so strong that it's worth...
I've seen it getting tested in some Blue Farm lists. It's floating around just because this spell Can't Be Countered is really great. It's really powerful. hard to get around unless you have the Mind Break Trap right at that moment and potentially the ability to hard cast it. Now, as it happens in our format, right? People start going on top of it. You get your Born Upon a Winds on top of it. It doesn't completely solve the mid-range counterspell problem, but you drop that on turn 1 and push a win attempt turn 2. Players aren't going to have a lot to say about it, which, kind of raises not necessarily an issue, but just an observation in our format of people don't run a lot of removal. So I do think this may push our format to run a bit more removal.
Yeah.
Or, on the other hand, we're just going to go faster, right? We're just go fast, which is always the solution that gets floated. So I'm really excited for this card.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I do think it's going to push us in one of two directions. I agree with that, right? Either we're going to go way more control and we're going to see more spot removal, maybe more board wipes, just kind of, or maybe even some weird niche interaction. Like I was already on Calamity's Wake, which is kind of niche.
Trigger warning, Calamity's Wake mentioned.
Card's hot. The card's really hot. I promise. It's so good. It's actually not that good, but it's like really situationally good. And it only probably good in TNT. I really can't even think of another deck that can run that. That's not probably Fringe.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's fun. It's a really good card. And these kind of cards, right? I was looking at Abeyance as well. It's kind of similar. It's like a worse Orange Chant in some ways. And these cards are really interesting because in a world in which I can't counter the Hexing Squelcher, cards that allow me to interact with the blue farm player in a certain way, or the Rog side player, or the Rog Thras player, really any red deck is going to probably run this card. Timna Dargo. Does Magna run it? Probably not, right?
I don't think they care.
No, they don't really cast spells.
They're waiting until your turn to win on top of you anyways.
Am I going to counter my dwarf?
Yeah.
So a lot of these decks, right? The idea then is if I can't counter you, and counter magic starts to fall down the tier in terms of like how I can even interact with the stack, then I have to start thinking about the alternative means of interacting. So spot removal, I think, goes up tremendously, right? Swords, bounce spells, like TNT, we run Abrupt Decay. I think that one's going to be really powerful because it also can't be countered. So yeah, you play your Hexing Squelcher, now you're holding up a bunch of counter magic to presumably protect it and your win. I Abrupt Decay it, now your counter magic is also useless. So stalemate, I guess, but I win because I also kill it. Now your counter magic can be countered again. So
Yeah.
that's kind of cool. I think, yeah, like you said, going on top of, that's already a really good strategy anyway.
Yep.
So it becoming more of a viable strategy. I wouldn't even say viable, right? Just maybe
More prominent.
more out of necessity.
It's going to come back, the sort of win on top strategy. I
Yeah.
feel like right around the time where you started winning on top a lot and where that became your prevailing strategy, the meta was already kind of shifting in that direction. And now we've slowly kind of started shifting away from it, and people have become more proactive and started winning on their turns more. And I feel like you said, this is going to go one of two ways. People are going to get into these mid-range slogfests and start going on top of the Hexing Squelchers, or it's going to get dropped turn 1, turn 2, and if you can't deal with it, GG's, go get lunch. I don't know. I do feel like we've sort of been dealing with the can't be countered shenanigans, at least in Blue Farm with the uncounterable Grand Abolishers, but I cannot tell you how many times I have had a Cavern, a Grand Abolisher, the Underworld Breach, the perfect setup, and someone just wins on top of me.
I've never done that to her.
If I had a nickel for every time, I'd have like 3 nickels, and that's not a lot, but it's more than one. So that's already kind of where we're going. I know this is gonna hurt the green players, but OBM, I do feel like OBM has to stick around because Hexing Squelcher dies to a cool breeze from an Orcish Bowmasters.
Oh, well, you have to pay some life for it because it does give
do.
everything ward pay 2 life, which is
2 life in our format.
it's crazy, right? They already made a crazy card, and then they're like, "Hey, why not just give it ward and everything else gets ward?" Like, what the? It can't be countered, and you can't counter anything else.
Right.
That's already
that
good
wasn't enough. That was not enough.
I'm surprised they didn't give it flash while they were at it.
Pay some more life.
You want to hear my favorite card?
Sure.
All right, I'm looking at Springleaf Parade. This card is weirdly awesome. It's X and 2 green enchantment. When this enchantment enters, create X11 colorless shapeshifter creature tokens with changeling. Creature tokens you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. So it's like a Cryptolith Rites, but for tokens. But it also makes tokens. And what's really cool about this is it makes changeling tokens. And guess what card gets super powered from changeling tokens, Lily?
The Otter.
The Otter. Valley Floodcaller goes nuts with this card because every time I cast a spell, all of my tokens untap with the Otter on the board. So all I have to do is wait a rotation, make sure they're not summoning sick anymore, and then boom, just start, we're gonna go nuts. We're gonna go absolutely insane. Combine this with Kinnan and like a Badgermole Cub, we're gonna make so much mana. So much mana. Also, because it's also one of my favorite decks of all time, Voja. Elves and wolves, baby. Elves and wolves.
Wolf mentioned. Timestamp this. Wolf mentioned.
I played this card, and I I go X equals 4, right? Which is like really easy to do in Voja. And TNT, I guess, too. And Rogthras for those Rogthras plus. And Kinnan.
And yeah, anything. Anything with green. Green players, please stop.
We get X equals 4. Now I get 4 draws and 4 1/1 counters. Well, it's 5 because of Voja. So I draw a lot of freaking cards.
So does it go from tree farm to otter farm?
Oh.
Are we farming otters?
Okay, so Avi and I were talking about this. We're trying to figure it out. Like, how much do you actually change? Because there is a world in which you go back towards the no bad cards version of TNT.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a build. There is a build. There has to be.
I think
that
so.
I want to tinker with. But I'm wondering if the build is just going to be better in other colors. Because I was looking at like a Frank Thras list. And Frank being in the command zone gives you some interesting decisions because he's already a bird. So you already have an advantage on doing the Otter plan. And then, do you go back into Attraction Helix? You have the outlet with Thrasios. Some interesting discussions there. Obviously, Rogthras really powerful with this deck because you're making so much mana really fast, like a lot faster than TNT can go. Kinnan makes gobbles of mana, oodles, and you getting the creature tokens that now tap. So like you go X equals 5. Now I have 5 more mana dorks that tap for 10 mana with Kinnan. So it's really powerful ritual from that perspective for Kinnan as well. When you look at it that way, Its one downside is I still have to survive a rotation after I've presumably either tapped out or spent a lot of mana to get all those tokens.
Maybe tapped out. I have seen you have loads of mana in TNT where you would not have to tap out for this. So allegedly tap out.
But I'd also have to find room for Valley Floodcaller, and the deck is already hurting for cuts. Like, even this weekend, I'm trying to figure out how to fit Formidable Speaker, which is probably the best card in the set. Not my favorite, but the best card coming out of the set. It's basically a Survival of the Fittest and a Candelabra attached to the same creature for like 3 mana. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I can't even find a cut for that right now. Like, there has to be one. It's probably going to be Grand Abolishir, which I know sounds nutty.
It's insane work.
Like we were talking about, though. I never win on my turn anyway.
No, you never do. You never do. It's the Jordan Drake special, right? Yap to get to other people's turns.
I don't yap that much. That's whatever.
Politic, gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss.
Okay, I don't gaslight. No.
And then win on top.
I've never gaslit anyone, ever. You're crazy.
You heard it here live. Gaslighting live and in 4K is insane.
Is this 4K? It's like...
I don't know.
It's probably 4K.
Who knows? Anyways, this card is disgusting, and green got a huge boost from this set as well, which, I'm not as excited about, but Jordan's very happy, so.
Green ate good this set.
It really did.
Rogthras ate really good this set.
It really did. We're going to see Rogthras stats shoot up, I think.
It becomes debatable if Rogthras might not just be the best deck in the format. I'll be curious to see, but I think it got so many pieces that it's going to have a very... I think other decks are going to have a hard time keeping up with it. Kinnan will always be able to because of the sheer amount of what Kinnan can do. But I do think Rogthras just operates on an axis that's really, really hard to interact with. And now it already got a really nice buff with the Cabbage Merchant and with Badgermole. I mean, some of them aren't on Cabbage Merchant, but Badgermole Cub was really good for them.
It is.
Really, really good.
It is.
I know some of them have been on Wan Shitong, which is, it's okay.
Yeah.
But this set really just...
Yes, it did.
So... Yeah, it's gonna be a fun set. I think people are excited too. This is the most excited I've seen for people on a new Magic set in probably about 6 months.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, we've had some really bad sets recently, so
We've had some misses for CEDH specifically. This was
I
all
was gonna
from a CEDH
Yeah.
mind frame.
because Avatar was fantastic.
Yes,
For not CEDH.
flavor wise, art wise, beautifully done set. Just not for CEDH.
Yeah. For CEDH centric sets, it's been a minute. We get like a card or two a set, and honestly, that's kind of the expectation that the community has for most sets. That's why we like the Modern Horizon sets, because it's like we know we'll get like 6 cards because they always push those sets pretty hard.
Yeah,
But yeah, this will be a fun set.
yeah, I think so.
All right, so you want to get into the coaching questions that we see the most?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Lily and I obviously we do CDH coaching. We've offered it so I've been offering it. I guess it's the Boil 2. I guess that makes sense. So
Boil 2 champion.
yeah, whatever. Because I think that's when people started reaching out. Obviously, people wanted to know how I won, and did you gain insights into my strategy? I really love coaching. Like, I think it's a lot of fun. Yes, you get to make some money off it. That's cool. But honestly, like, it's just really fun to do. It's fun to talk to people for an hour. You get you get a captive audience in a sense. They have to listen to me for an hour and a half. A lot of times too, like I'll charge somebody for an hour, but I'll talk for way longer than an hour. And like, as long as they're willing to sit there and yap with me, we'll go for like 2. And I'll just be like, bro, yeah, that's my fault. Like,
I think that's been most of your sessions I've seen. If you say I'm starting at X hour, I know to expect it to be 2 hours after, just because of how you are.
I can't help it. I love talking about this stuff.
It's okay. It's adorable.
Yeah.
You get to yap about TNT.
Exactly. Well, it's
yeah.
not just TNT. Like, I've gotten to talk about like Rogdrast. I've had a little bit of Blue Farm.
It's mainly TNT.
It's mainly TNT.
It's mainly TNT.
It's mostly TNT. Especially as Tree Farm kind of was on the rise and people are trying to figure that deck out.
Yeah.
But I love it. I think coaching is it's a lot of fun. And I think I really take a lot of pride in like how our students are doing, or our clients, whatever you want to call them. Take a lot of pride in how they're doing and how they're performing. And, I'm really invested in their results and I really want to see people get better. And I love people who come back and are like, I've done this and this, and I've top 16 my first event, or I've top 4'd my first event. That's awesome. That's like the greatest feeling in the world, because I'm always concerned that someone will pay me and they're getting nothing out of it.
This guy sucks.
Right. It's just not useful and it's a waste of their money. And like, I don't want to be a waste of someone's money. Like, if it's not helpful, I'm not just going to take it,
Yeah.
All this to say, Lily started coaching as well, mostly on Malcolm Vial.
Yeah. I started coaching probably about 3 months after you did. I think I went on a really hot streak there for a while after the Boil, and I did top 16 the Boil as well. It's not any.
Golf clap. Couldn't be Kevin though.
No, I could not. Freaking Kinnan, man. Anyways, so I started coaching a little bit after Jordan, primarily on Malcolm Vial, but I have talked to a lot of people about Blue Farm now. So I really enjoy it. I really enjoy going through niche card choices, hearing other people's mindset on the game, because I feel like I personally get better from listening to other people's perspective on the game, right? They're coming to me for coaching. They're coming to me for my advice, but I try to learn something from everybody as well and view how other people see the game, so I'm not so laser focused on my play pattern is the only play pattern. And I think coaching helps everybody involved if you take the time to listen and learn from each other.
Yeah. And that leads us kind of into where we wanted to talk to the most about today is the coaching questions that Lily and I get asked the most. And some of these are going to be really general because it's hard for us to kind of get into specifics while we don't have the deck list in front of us. We don't have the person in front of us. We don't know the context in which some of these people are asking these questions. But we can kind of break down some of the more high-level ones that we get, especially around like politics, mulligans. I know there's like normal stuff you see in a tournament, I guess.
Yeah.
So, Lily, do you want to lead us off with the number one most common question you hear?
The number one most common question...
Or is it number 5? We start with 5, and we'll just work our way down.
We're starting from the bottom.
Yes.
Okay. So one of the more common questions that I hear is how do you politic in certain scenarios, right? And specifically when I coach on Malcolm Vial, how to politic when you're the threat. What do you do when the whole table is pointing at you and saying that's the problem? How do we address that?
You said how to do it earlier, right? Gaslight.
Gaslight gatekeep girl.
Don't do that.
You heard it here first, folks. Jordan Drake endorsed.
I won't lie. I do try to deflect hard though.
Yes, you do.
I would say it works like 40% of the time. Sometimes it's obvious, right? Like if I have a seedborn and like a cradle and like, I don't know, 5 other cards, it's,
Nobody should let you get away with that.
They aren't.
What are you doing?
They aren't. It's when I have like a seedborn and like 4 lands that maybe I start to get away with a little bit. But that's fair, right? Because I'm in control at that point.
You are not. The gaslighting is beginning.
No,
again.
it's control. I'm controlling the game by, I draw a card here.
No.
I draw a card there. I can hold up my interaction.
No.
And then I play a cradle and it snowballs.
No. You're holding up your interaction to win on top. You're controlling your window. That's what you're controlling.
I have won plenty of times on my turn. I'll have you know. I just like to win on top. It's more fun.
Okay.
It's like a challenge,
Besides deflect, what do you do when you're the problem?
I think in a serious answer, right? The best way to handle these situations, when you are clearing away the top threat, there's really not a lot you can do. Right. I think trying to waste your energy politicking is not really worth the extra effort that it is. What you need to kind of be focused on is how do I get to my win line now without losing most of my board along the way?
Yeah.
So it's more about making efficient plays, I think, at that point than it is about politicking. Because in a world in which, I go back to the same scenario, right, where I've got the seed board and I've got this massive board advantage, and everyone else is still playing from significantly far behind. There really is not a lot you can do, right? There's no good reason for anyone to listen to anything you're saying unless someone else is attempting to jam a win. And so when I'm the number one threat at the table, I usually will spend more time being like, hey, I'm not saying I'm not the threat, but if you do this, this person has this. And that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not going to make a big effort about it. I'm not going to try to browbeat them over it. For one, it's just not my politics style anyway. But 2, it's just not worth your time, right? Like at this point, what your enemy is when you are the threat is time, literal time on the clock. You don't want people to yap so much that you don't ever get a chance to push your massive advantage to a win. So really you're better off just trying to speed through the conversation, right? Be ready to call for judge, to move the conversation along if people are taking way too long politicking than they are playing out their actions. So in these situations, that's what I would do.
That makes sense. So you're looking at it from a mid-range perspective.
Yeah.
When I'm the problem early on. I have dropped a turn 1, turn 2 Necro. I have ad naused. I have a Malcolm, and I've tutored, and I'm threatening a Glinthorn on turn 2 or turn 3, right?
Yeah.
I'm threatening early, ideally. So what I do in those scenarios is honestly kind of similar to what Jordan said, right? Yes, I'm the problem. Yes, I just tutored. Here's the thing, you can get rid of my Malcolm, you can get rid of this threat, that's fine, but then we won't have XYZ for the next player's turn.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's where deal making does come into play. If I'm tutoring and they show me a removal or they indicate that they have it, maybe I don't go get the Glinthorn. Maybe we can all just be reasonable. We can be cool. No need to blow me out, and we can just keep playing the game. And there may be another window later on, or you may have to create the window later on. You may have to be a little bit more patient at that point. And I think that is certain players' issues is patience, which Jordan is personally really good at, waiting for that right window and understanding that you may be the problem in that moment, but that can also flip on you at the drop of a hat, and another explosive deck or a deck that has simply been allowed to be in the game for long enough, like your TNT, your Rock Thrash, your Kinnan, they can explode out on you on a dime. And suddenly all the advantage that you have from being a Grixis shell is gone. So willing to be reasonable up to a certain extent, but there is another point where you have to just make them have it and where you have to jam the win if you think your window is there.
Yeah, I think if someone's not willing to show you interaction, you just jam.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, if you're not willing to show me the piece, like if I'm going to politic and you're going to be like, hey, well, don't push win here, you go, okay, give me a good reason not to. If they're not willing to show it to you, you jam it, right? Because at that point, they're trying to bluff.
Yeah,
and
100%.
It's like, brother, you can try to stress it like, hey, if you don't show it to me, I'm going to force you to use it. Like, that's just how I play.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's where you jam it. And one of the reasons you run turbo is so you don't have to politic, right?
Yep.
Generally, that's really the only politicking decision you have is if someone says, oh, well, don't do it. And you go, Okay, show me why not. And then I'll pivot if you have a legitimately good reason for me not to. But the whole point of Turbo is that there's not a lot of politicking that happens turn 1, turn 2, because everyone's still setting up. So generally, there's no engines, there's no anything. So like, what is there to politic over at that point? Generally, right?
That's true. That's true. That's a good point. And sometimes people have niche interaction or free interaction early on that they do have. You may have to politic to not get mind break trapped on a breach line or something like that. But
no one's gonna not mind break trap you on a breach line.
If you say please, 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 you ask your opponents really nicely. Don't mind break trap this.
I think an interesting situation that comes up sometimes is, well, what happens if I'm the threat, but there's someone close to me in board state? That's a significantly easier situation to politic, right? Because then it's, sure, I'm the threat. And I think that's the key, right? Is acknowledging that you're the threat. It makes you more trustworthy at the table. Because if you're constantly deflecting away, like, oh, I'm not the threat, I'm not the threat. Which again, maybe I'm not the best messenger for this because I do deflect, even when I'm the threat. I think we all do it, right? Like, I do think most people will just have a natural tendency to deflect, even when they know they're a problem.
You're deflecting while talking about deflecting. That's crazy.
No, I'm not.
Anyway.
See, I'm being gaslit now. It's going the opposite way. But yeah, so I think when you are in that situation, right, where there's a threat and you're also a threat, so it becomes kind of a 1v1, but there's still 2 other players at the table, and how do you kind of manage these 2 players? And I think it's constantly being able to assess board state and correctly articulate to the other players, hey, I'm a threat. I'm not going to deny that. I'm clearly in a dominant position. However, if, like, let's say someone wants to kill one of your pieces, right? Let's say they're going to swords, like my Biomancer familiar, right? And I've got Thrasios and I've got some mana. But then I'm looking at, say, let's say a Vivi, right? And he's Vivi on 6 going into his turn. Well, he's also got a massive mana advantage. And let's say he's got a Wandering on, like, 2 or 3, right? We're going to see similar amount of cards. We've got both of our game plans set up. At that point, you've got to convince the person that, hey, holding the swords for maybe a more high-profile target, something that's actually winning the game, might be to your advantage, because if they hit your stuff and blow you out, before you get a chance to like talk to the Vivi player or hit the Vivi player might just be able to win. Or similarly, let's say there's a Rogthras player, right? And the Rogthras player and you have almost identical board states, but maybe you're just a little bit ahead of them. Well, you don't want anyone else to shift the power balance. Right. The point at that point is to keep everything in an equilibrium between the 2 players that are dominant and let these 2 respond by kneecapping these players as they attempt to win. But trying to do anything beforehand creates a weird dynamic of, if I kneecap this player too much before this player has really done anything, now they're just at a massive advantage comparatively. Because what these 2 players are looking for in that scenario is an opening created by stopping one of these 2 players. Right? So, like, when you're thinking about, okay, I'm back, I'm down, I'm behind, and this player is politicking against me, really think hard about when you're using that interaction, how does it open up your window to win the game, right? You're looking for an opportunity here to seize. Is kneecapping the player at that moment the right call because it helps you advance your win? Or is it more of a panic move based on the fact that, hey, they look really scary and they're getting scary? If there's 2 scary players, there's really no reason when you're behind for you to waste any interaction. Let the 2 players that are in position use their resources, right? At this point, it's a resource game. You need to win the resource game. You have less resources. So the only way you can win a resource game is by holding them until the absolute last moment that you can use them. And again, that the point of using them at that point is to make a window for yourself to have an opportunity to push through a win or buy yourself a turn, force a draw. We all need to accumulate points. So if you're in a position where a draw puts you further into the tournament, puts you in a winning in position, or helps your breakers getting into a higher seed, right? I mean, if you're in a position where a draw doesn't win you, like a draw doesn't get you to top 16, who cares? At that point, it doesn't matter. But if a draw really does help you in some way, do what you got to do.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like it also, these conversations get really deck dependent as well, because I find it's going to be easier to blow out the creature decks, the Kinnons, the Rog Thrasses. To a certain extent, they're fragile before they've completely got off the ground. There is a point where you can absolutely blow them out, where they haven't accumulated quite enough resources to be past that tipping point that we talk about, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a blue farm player, you give them their Mystic Remora, you give them their Heuristic Study, unless you have the hard removal for it, right? Sure, you can bounce the study. It may set them back a turn, but if they've already drawn some cards, it is what it is. They may have the gas to win, they may not. So I find these conversations about kind of triangulating players and the equilibrium that exists at a table is really deck dependent. And I think that's where proper threat assessment does come in, as Jordan mentioned. It's assessing the board and saying, okay, there's a Vivi and there's a One Ring. Okay, there's a Biomancer's Familiar out with a Thrasios and a bunch of mana. I can't deal with either of these. I'm just going to sit back. I will only interact if it's absolutely necessary and if it's absolutely certain that I will get a turn or, something along those lines. But the calculus changes if it's a blue farm on Heuristic Study, right? And then the Vivi player with a One Ring and a creature deck. The creature deck is far more likely to get blown out. And that's where it's on player D in this scenario to say, to not blow up the creatures, to not blow up the Vivi, to let the blue farm player fight the fight, which generally, as a person that plays blue farm now, people make me fight the fight. So generally there's an understanding at tables that happens, but sometimes there's not, right? Sometimes people get spooked by 50 million creatures and a Gaia's Cradle on the board, which is valid. You should be spooked by that, but,
There is a disconnect, and we've talked about it a lot, right? Between a blue farm player drawing 25, 30 cards and a TNT player with a good board. And maybe not even a great board, right? It's like land, 3 dorks, and maybe like something else that's like, okay, that's a decent engine, right? Like say a Derevi or a Cabbage Merchant, right? It's a decent board, but it's not great. And in that position, would you rather be the player in the blue farm deck drawing 30 cards because your Heuristic Study is being fed? But a lot of times players will see the advantage that is happening on board of, but they've got 7, 8 cards on their board. Blue farm's got 4 because it'll be like land, rock, Heuristic, right? And it's like they're equivalent more so than people, I think, initially realize. There is always this idea of when you're assessing threat, on board is scarier than in hand. And I don't think that's always necessarily correct, especially when you're talking about decks like Rogsai, Ral, CEDH sometimes, right? Because all their stuff is in deck. Magda to a certain degree. Some of these other decks that are just like, if I have a large amount of cards in my hand, I'm just pushing win very easily. Blue farm, is great because they can Naz off really fast. They can Necro really fast. They've got the most efficient win con in the game in Breach. So you've got all these pieces that make it like, you go like that. And there's not a lot that I can do if you've drawn 15 cards, even with a good board state, quote unquote.
And I think that's where it also comes in, just a generalized knowledge of what each deck is doing, right? Blue farm with 30 cards in hand is scary. However, CEDH with only 2 cards in hand but 2 activations on board is also scary. They may not have a draw engine. They probably don't want to draw certain cards depending on their variant, right? They want to tutor those cards out. If they're sitting up with a Smothering Tithe and the blue farm player has 30 cards, is the blue farm player going to be able to deal with that? Maybe not, honestly. A lot of us don't run Oppo, so it just depends on a general knowledge of what you're sitting up against and what resources are actually available.
Yeah. The number 4 most common question Lily and I hear is, how should I change the deck list that I've seen on the internet? Or how should I change my deck list? These questions kind of go hand in hand. What you really see a lot of times is players will either add pet cards, they'll make changes because they believe that the strategy initially is flawed. There can be a lot of reasons why people make deck changes. And a lot of times what we hear in coaching is, either they've taken a net deck list and they brought it to us and they say, how do I adapt this to my meta, or how do I adapt this to my play style, or what do I do to change what's already here? Or what we'll alternatively hear is, I've taken this net deck list, I've made changes to it, it's not working the way I want it to. And so when we hear this question, a lot of times what I like to do is I go back to the source of the deck and redo the primer and try to understand how all the pieces of the deck are working together, especially if it's a deck that I'm being asked about that I've never played. That's not happened that often, but it does come up every once in a while. And in those cases, yeah, sometimes I just try to point players to a different direction to be like, hey, this person probably could coach you on it better than I can. But sometimes, they insist that they want to be coached by you on that, and that's fine. What I do in those situations, though, is going back to the deck, trying to understand how all these pieces fit together. I think we see it a lot, is when people take net deck lists and they don't necessarily understand how all the pieces are interacting together, you can change something that might be instrumental to the deck because you don't at first necessarily understand why that card is there. And I think it's a fundamental misunderstanding that occurs all the time. And so a lot of times what I tell players is take the list as it was built, right? Play 50 games with it. It's a lot. I'm definitely not going to deny that, but really dig into the list and understand it when you're first picking it up, why it was constructed in this way. What are all the pieces doing? Why is everything here? Because everything was built in theory with a purpose in mind. Some deck lists might have been a little bit more slapdash thrown together, but generally if it's a winning deck list, it's mostly well constructed, I'd say.
Yeah.
There's exceptions to that, of course, but for the most part, it clearly can do the thing, whatever the thing is meant to do. So in these situations, I really just recommend playing it, lots of reps on it. And that way, when it does come time to make the changes that you need to make, you have a good understanding of what the deck is doing, where the weird cards are that are like, I understand why it's here, but I don't feel like it's really meeting the goal of the deck. So like we were just talking, right? I have played 250 some tournament games. On TNT, I've played probably like 100 of those, maybe 150. I can tell you, Grand Abolisher does not come up for me very often because of both my play style. In fact, I just never seem to have it. If I grab a silence effect, it's always silence or it's voice of victory. So I guess Ranger Captain every once in a blue moon. But the amount of times I can honestly say where I've cast a Grand Abolisher, it's very rare. I've never even flipped it up from an Oculus, which was the dream when I put that card in the list.
I swear you've done that to me in a practice game.
Maybe in a practice game, but definitely not in a tournament game.
No, that's fair. You're not wrong there. I never see you cast GA.
Right.
You're not. You have a point.
It rots in my hand all the time. So I've been thinking, do I cut it? It seems crazy, right? Grand Abolisher's so good.
It does.
It stops win attempts, and I'm afraid I take it out for one event, and
You're gonna hate it.
I'll have the perfect niche scenario of I'll play the Voice of Victory. I could, I'll tutor up a 2-drop. I'll play the Voice of Victory, be like, hee, I'm winning.
Yeah.
And I'll have someone win by activating something. And I'll be like, if it was Abolisher, I would have won.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? And it'll be so frustrating. And I know it'll happen as soon as I take the card out. So I'm holding off. But my willpower is weakening as this week goes on, and I need to make a cut for Formidable Speaker. So these are the kind of situations, right? You'll get an idea of what cards also fit your personal play style, because just because the card is good and just because the card is in the deck that the player that you're net decking from doesn't necessarily mean it still fits your play style. I think every player, when they pick up a deck, has to mold it to fit them as well. And so a lot of times that takes playing the deck for a while, understanding how the cards are fitting together, and then melding both the play style of the player that you're picking from, because obviously if they built the deck, then you're going to be playing from their play style a little bit. And now meld that into making it work for your own personal play style. Is that the cat? The cat is meowing at the door.
That is Athena outside the door.
That's crazy.
That is why I was laughing mid-sentence.
The cats are meowing. We'll be right back. We're going to take a break to go deal with that. We'll be right back.
Fine.
Okay.
She can crash out.
All right, we're back. We're going to let the cats crash out because
it's time for them to get fed, and my third cat campaign worked. If you guys are aware of the third cat campaign, I won. The battle is over. If you don't know what the third cat campaign is, basically, I think this started in the Monolith Discord server. I did a hashtag third cat campaign for the first time. Everybody in that server started bugging Jordan. There was AI slop photos of Jordan like hugging three, it's adorable, hugging three cats. Best cat dad ever. And so my birthday was last week. And this weekend, or last weekend, I guess? Yeah, last weekend, Jordan surprised me with a third little shelter baby. So we're in the process of introducing little Nova to Athena and Luna. So
It takes time, though.
it takes time. Cats are very finicky little beings, and we have to let them eat food next to each other, but not touching each other. And it's a whole process, and it's time to do that. And I'm not doing that mid-episode, so they can wait. They can crash out.
They are indeed crashing out.
Yeah. So anyway, going back to the to the fourth question, I found this a lot on Pirate Farm, which is probably the deck list that everybody asks me about, right? I found that a lot of people would come to me for coaching and they would say, well, I cut all the one drop pirates and now Lightning Rig crew feels like trash. Well, you cut one of the pirate-centric engines, right? You cut the one-drop pirates out, and you're wondering why the pirate-centric card feels bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where, like you said, they aren't the architect of the list. People haven't had 50-plus reps on the list, so they don't understand the small, niche little synergies that go into stuff like that. And so I definitely recommend getting reps on a deck list. I also think you have a good point about you're playing to people's play styles when you net deck a list. So this is me on my soapbox, guys. You've given me a platform. I hate Beseech the Mirror. I said it here for this. This is me. This is my hot take of the episode. I hate Beseech the Mirror. And the amount of just random DMs and Moxfield comment, not even coaching sessions, not even just DMs, Moxfield comments, ats in Discord servers even, of people asking me, why aren't you on Beseech? Well, I don't personally like it. I'm not a Beseech the Mirror enjoyer. So when people pick up Pirate Farm, they think it's an oversight, or they think it's, they think I'm just playing wrong, which fair enough, maybe, I guess. You're sure.
I thought she was crazy when she took it out of the list and said it sucked. I was not sure. Okay.
But the deck list hummed for me. That's the thing. That deck list was very tailored to my play style. It was very tailored to the particular meta in which I was playing it in. And sure. I won a lot of games in very nutty niche scenarios that often involve the niche little pirate synergies that exist in there, right? So all of that to say,
you don't play Pirate Farm anymore. I'm just kidding. I mean, you don't, but
I don't. But that is a deck list that people would take and change and then wonder why things aren't operating efficiently, right? Because that deck was a well-oiled machine for that meta, for that time period, for my play style. But that doesn't mean that somebody who doesn't play like me and who changes cards can pick it up and have the same success. And I think you've seen the same thing with TNT, right?
Yeah.
It'll be Tree Farm doesn't work. Why isn't this working? Well, you cut 5 cards, Yeah. And so I think it's maybe having, if you know the deck list author, maybe having a conversation with them, maybe engaging in conversations on Discord servers about it, play testing the cards, play testing and figuring out what your personal play style is, and finding an online deck list that matches that. Yeah. So if somebody knows that they are not a more mid-range pirate enjoyer and they want to run Malcolm Vile like it's Roxai, then my deck list probably isn't the deck list for you, right? So it's having enough awareness to know your personal play style, what you like out of CEDH, and then net decking a list that sort of fits what you're trying to do so you don't have a miserable experience.
Fair. Very fair.
Yeah, so our number 3 question involves mulligan decisions, which Jordan and I acknowledge is very hard to talk about in a vacuum, right? But as we said before, we're going to give some very sage advice that should work for generally any deck or any play style. So when you're mulliganing and when you're evaluating hands, generally, at least what I look for is a hand that does something. So I find a lot of newer CEDH players, or maybe not even newer, but people who haven't participated in a lot of tournament play, find themselves wanting to make the splashy play, the riskier play, or keep a hand that generally doesn't play the game. So keeping one landers, for example, with no plan beyond that if you don't top deck a land.
Yep.
So I think your hand needs to have a plan, and it needs to have the means to execute that plan, even if it's just rituals, right? The mana doesn't need to have a staying power, but we need to have something to play the game, and then something that furthers your game plan, right? So once again, from my perspective as a Malcolm Vile and Blue Farm player, if I'm looking at a hand that gets me a turn 2 Malcolm, but there's no tutor and nothing else to do with it, what is turn 2 Malcolm getting me? Same in Blue Farm, right? Well, not necessarily the same, because we have the draw engine in the command zone, right? So the calculus is a bit different. But if we have a hand that gets out an early heuristic study, but if that gets countered or if there's any disruption to that, we get blown out, what's happening after that? You can pivot to the Timna plan, but it's not that great if you haven't set up for it. Timna alone in a vacuum isn't going to get you where it needs to get you.
Yeah.
Right? So a hand that does something and a hand that has mana is at least what I try to shoot for. Some sort of early turn 1, turn 2 game plan.
Yeah, and I think having a plan is always prudent, right? I think a lot of people, either they take risky hands, or they'll see like a mana-heavy hand and be like, oh, cool, but then they don't think about like, when having a plan means I need to see more cards, right? And it's easy when your commander can let you see more cards. A Tivit, a Timna, a Crom, a Thrasios. I mean, there's a reason the top tier decks are all decks that generally let you see more cards, or something like Rogthras, where it's designed, Rogsai, where it's designed to churn really quickly through your deck using rituals and wheels and tutors to find the cards that you need to win. I think it is a mistake, right? You see a lot of times people will be like, oh, well, I have all this mana. Cool. Now how do you convert it to card advantage?
Nothing to do with it.
Right. And it's like, oh, like I kept a good mana hand, but the mana is awkward because of the colors, so I can't cast my commander that draws me cards. So now I'm stuck. Or my hand is full of counter magic, but no real way to actually like advance my own game plan to push me towards a win. Right. And we do see this a lot, right? When I think when players are mulliganing, they hear a lot of the advice. When you have a turbo deck, mull for interaction. But it's not just mull for interaction, right? You still have to be able to play the game after you've interacted. So it's mull for interaction, but also having engines that let you do something, right? So like for TNT, we always have Timna and Thrasios to fall back on. It's why the deck is so flexible and powerful, because our draw engines are cheap and in the command zone. We can access them whenever we need to. So we can be a little bit riskier with our hands, right? I can keep the interaction hand that's also heavy on mana because my mana is easy to convert to card draw. Same thing with Blue Farm. It's why these decks are the closer to the top end. When you look at most of the top tier decks, they're all able to convert mana to more cards. Magda, Sisay, Blue Farm, Rogthras, TNT. And then the other flip side of that is cards that can convert mana into seeing more cards down the road. So like Ral, right, is you're trying to build up a high enough storm count to flip Ral because then it lets you see 8 cards. So as long as you're continuously able to play out the one drops that draw cards. Why can't I remember the name
Cantrips.
of it? Thank you, Jesus. I was like, it's on the tip of my tongue and I cannot remember it.
You're not a Storm player. You don't even know what a cantrip is.
That's true. I don't think I've ever played Storm. No. Like ever. Like even when I was playing Blue-Red, it was Control. Control Nibby.
Control. No, that was Control. That was miserable. we don't want to talk about that.
So yeah, so you run the cantrips, right? And because these let you see cards do that. And if you churn through enough cantrips, you eventually find a wheel, which lets you see a burst of more cards.
Right.
And that's how you convert a deck. But let's say I'm playing Tivit, right? Mm-hmm. And my opening hand is like land, Chrome Mox, I don't know, Urza, and Displacer Kitten, right? I've got some cool cards. I've got the ability to eventually cast those. And for some players, especially newer players, that hand's a trap because it has a plan
Yep.
in theory, but it doesn't really.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's nothing, you're not drawing cards, you're not converting to anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh, well, maybe it had a counter spell. Like, let's take out the Displacer Kitten with a counter spell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I have counter magic, I've got mana, I've got a powerful card in Urza. That turns all my artifacts into blue mana, which helps me cast Tibet. But then, really thinking about it, the hand doesn't actually go anywhere.
Yeah. And
Right.
in the wrong pod, you may have lost, right? One
Right.
piece of interaction may not be enough.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why, like, some decks, their game plans are very linear, right? With Atali, you only have to worry about mana because Atali is your card conversion perspective, right? Lily was saying, like, for farm, Timna's slower, Crom is slower, and they're mostly backup plans because you're trying to get your Ristic Study and your Fish first and foremost. So you can play those cards. And they're not bad. Farming is great. If you're in a slower game, farming is excellent, right? Like,
Farming's great.
but in a game where you have to be a little faster, it's usually better to use your rituals or to drop your Ristic Study because if a turbo deck pushes into your Ristic Study, they're going to probably draw you into win.
Oh, for sure.
More than likely, right? They might not draw you into interaction to stop their win, but if they screw up, and TK, our buddy TK, knows this the hard way because it just happened to him the other night, literally pushes into my turn 1 or turn 2 Fish, doesn't get there, and everyone scoops because I've drawn 25 cards. And I started at one point, I was being a turd, and I was just putting them face up. I'd be like, oh, look, it's Breach. Oh, look, it's Brain Freeze. Oh, look, it's LED. I've got the whole set. I'm like, all right, TK, if you lose, I win.
Jordan felt the power of Blue Farm for a night.
It was so dumb. It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I'm literally just sitting there watching TK come 1 mana short on his Rogside line.
Yeah.
And then he's looking at it and he's like, no. And I was like, oh shit, did I win without casting a single spell? This is the Blue Farm experience.
That's the joke I always make about Blue Farm since getting on it. Take less game actions, right? Get your Ristic, or whatever engine. It doesn't even have to be Ristic Study.
It's almost always Ristic Study.
I found myself tutoring for Ristic Study less and less, right? But
What else are you tutoring for?
I'll get Fish and I'll leave mana up. I find myself being
Sure, Fish
being
is so
tapped
much
out.
worse.
Against your creature shenanigans, sometimes it is.
Yeah, but then you don't get Fish.
But then you win under my Ristic Study.
I was going to win under your Fish. I don't cast any... What are we talking about here? I don't cast any non-creature spells.
I forgot the point.
Okay.
I was making a point and then you sidetracked me.
I'm sorry.
You goldfished my point.
I thought I'm the goldfish.
You
right here.
made me a goldfish for this moment. Forgot the point I was trying to make. Oh no, take less game actions. That's what I was saying. Get your engine, sit back, let the game play out, be a passenger princess in the game, and then after you have 30 cards, win the game.
Swear, if Breach was banned, Blue Farm would be dead tomorrow. Can't sit there if your win con is less efficient.
We have
Probably.
Thoracle. It'll be alright.
No, okay, because that's the one everyone wins with. Sure. No, you'd have to go back, play real Magic by playing Teferi, Displacer Kitten, Lotus Petal.
Man, I saw something, and it was on Twitter, where someone said, I don't know the last time I've seen a Thoracle hit the board, and they had a point about that. I don't know the last time I've seen a Thoracle hit the board.
I've Thoracle at Cookup against Ty, too.
That was in October, my guy.
I guess that was a while ago.
That was so long ago.
We haven't played that many tournaments since then, though. It's been like 3 tournaments.
No, yeah, it's been kind of dead for us with the holidays and everything.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, going back to mulligan decisions, kind of building off that again, I found the trap that I would fall into, especially in Malcolm, was assuming that other people wouldn't respect the deck or assuming that other people didn't know what the plan was. So I would mulligan solely for those early explosive flashy plays with no backup, right? Early Glinthorn, try to end the game. When people know my shenanigans or when people just know the deck, period, that would get blown out. So, or even if they just didn't know the deck, it's not even a matter of knowing the deck. If they just had the removal or the counter spell, right? Then I'm sitting there, blown out, dead in the water, and leaving the tournament saying, why didn't I convert? Why didn't I win games? That, this situation is trash. The situation is trash because of my mulligan decisions, right? Like, that is on me. So I think it takes a lot of introspection to go back and say the hands that I'm keeping are the problem.
That makes sense.
Not the deck list is the problem, not the tournament is the problem, not my politicking is the problem. go back and really look at what hands you're keeping. And I had to have that moment with myself on Blue Farm as well. You know, why am I not converting on the best deck in the format in these games, right?
Yeah.
Look at the hands that you're keeping, right? This is one of the fundamentals where the plan can't solely be, well, I'm just gonna win and get out of this game. And unless you're Roxai or Al, then, you know, obviously that is your whole plan. But most decks are not equipped to say, oh, I'm just gonna get out of this game.
Yeah.
Most decks need a plan, starting with a solid turn 1 or turn 2 play, mana to follow it up, and then some sort of advantage engine, how in whatever form or fashion that is for your particular deck and your particular play style.
Yeah. No, totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Want to do our second one now?
Yeah.
All right. So the second most common question we get asked when in our coaching sessions is, when do I know when to go for it? So this is often discussed, or sometimes it's coined as window theory, but really it's your opportunity to win the game, right? You're looking for that window of opportunity. It's very deck dependent. And again, a lot of these questions are. It's why sometimes we have these discussions. They're built around knowing that person's play style, understanding that person's deck, and that way we can help them identify those windows of opportunity to push their win attempts through. But in a vacuum, there are some indicators in which you can kind of begin to understand. First, it's timing. People do not have interaction turn 1 or turn 2, usually. Now, you can gauge a pod by understanding how responsible they're mulliganing, right? If someone's going down, like snap keeps first 7 against, like, let's say you're a rock side player, right? And someone snap keeps first 7 against you. It depends, like, you really have to start trying to read that person and get an understanding of, did they snap keep because it had everything they needed? Or was it greed that is pushing them through, right? They saw, oh, I got a turn 2 Ristic study, like, this is great against Roxai. I mean, sometimes it is, but a lot of times Roxai laughs its face off as it's winning right past it, right? Other times it's the perfect foil because they draw into like their 3 pieces of counter magic and you get boned. So part of that is understanding both your deck, right? You know, if you're a turbo deck, your window is turns 1 through 3. It starts to become a little bit more of a struggle once you get past turn 3, and then you have to start figuring out, where can I reopen that window and find a new place to push win through. And so here's a couple ideas in which you can kind of push through window. Some of them are obvious. Some of them are a little less so. So if you're a deck like mine that likes to go on top of people, the best time to push your win is when the stack is kind of to a point where no one else can do anything. So really, that's kind of where the patience comes in, right? Is you really have to identify at what points can you start to interact on the stack. If you go too early, you will lose because your stuff that you need to resolve is going to get buried on the stack. If you go too late, you may have missed your window in terms of, well, maybe they drew into, like if there's a Ristic study, maybe they drew more interaction. Like maybe the person winning is just sitting on like 3 more pieces and now they can also stop your win attempt. So there's a very nuance, and you're not going to pick it up the first time. You're probably not going to pick it up the second time. This is something you learn through repetition with your deck. Because if you pick up other people's decks or you pick up other decks, you're going to change where those windows of opportunity exist, right? Because it is different for a deck. Like for Blue Farm, right? Your window of opportunity is very different.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it very much depends on the Blue Farm game for me because it is such a versatile deck. I have the Adnaz and the Necro, but I also have, the PFB and the Timna and the backup plan, right? So for me, when I sit down and I'm looking at my window in Blue Farm, I'm looking at what I'm up against first and foremost. If I'm staring down a double turbo pod, Vivi, Ral, and then, a TNT player that's not Jordan. Jordan excluded, right?
Why am I excluded?
Jordan excluded. So
Rude. Very rude.
So then it's up to me and the other more mid-range player to kind of police the turbo decks because Blue Farm alone isn't going to get under Vivi and Ral, especially if I'm in seat 3. Maybe if I'm in seat 1, I can pull a fast one. my window is not high for that. My odds are not good for that. So I work with the other mid-range player to try to get to both of our more optimal times in the game. Yeah. Now, for my personal list, I find myself pushing and looking for my optimal window around 3 or 4. That isn't to say that I haven't won before that or after that, but a majority of mine sit around 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Now in Grixis, it was different. When I played Malcolm, and I'm staring down, these mid-range players, right? Really good mid-range grind decks. I'm saying, how do I get out of this the fastest, right? Yeah. Which, kind of going back to the mulligan decision, right? Not a lot of decks can say, how do I get out of this the fastest? Grixis is one of the ones that can say that. So I'm looking at my window going, okay, I cannot let Kinnan get a lot of mana on board. Yeah. I cannot let TNT get a Biomancers and a Cradle out, So that is when I start looking for those earlier windows of opportunity. I start pushing my more proactive game plan. Maybe I'm able to Necro with a treasure from Malcolm to go into a Born Upon a Wind to, try to win right then, right there, before they even get a chance to set up. Because once those decks do set up, they're going to outgrind Grixis. If I'm going past 3 to 4, my window is not closed for good. Things can switch up at a dime, like I said before, but it gets significantly harder, and you have to fight through these decks that are meant to be in these turns, and that gets really difficult.
Yeah. Whereas like mid-range decks, right? It's a very different because once you've pushed to your window to like turns 4 or 5, where you can turn the corner, you become the snowball. Mm-hmm. At that point, it's all downhill, right? When I've accumulated so much value that it doesn't even matter what interaction you have for me, I'm just probably going to be able to keep pushing through interaction because I continually have access to tons of mana, which means tons of cards, and there's not a lot that you can do in those situations. So really one of the best ways that you can understand has my window opened has a large counter war happen. Like this one's kind of obvious, but when it happens, you'll notice it immediately. Everyone's looking around the table. They're all like, well, what interaction do you have? And you're like, well, I've got nothing. And the other person's like, okay, well, I've got this. And the other person's like, oh, well, I've got these 2. And all 3 have to get used to stop the player in front of you, and you're next in line. A lot of times the good players will make some kind of deal to where you don't win, so they don't just like counter something and then you untap and win. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times also people forget to do this because they're just trying to, survive.
Yeah.
So in those situations, you can untap and win, and your window opened, right? And as soon as you identify, all the interaction's gone. The other way you can identify it is by having conversations. So it can be surprising just by asking questions how much information you get from players just by asking a question. I think infamously for me, I got everyone at the boil 2 to reveal their entire hand to me. I knew the Rogside player didn't have anything because I had convinced them not to push because I had a piece of interaction. The Kinnan player showed me their hand because we were trying to figure out how we could stop Rogside. Didn't have anything. And then the Enris Street Urchin player showed me their hand so that we could figure out how to stop the Rogside. Well, I'm sitting on a Thoracle Tainted Pact in my hand. And so what I figured out was no one had any interaction to stop my Thoracle Tainted Pact. And I was like, oh, sick. Boop, boop. GG's, right? And
that story was diabolical the first time. I cannot believe the things this man pulls off.
We had a threat that needed to be dealt with.
The threat was sitting in your hand.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I showed players the Tainted Pact. No one clocked it. Like, it wasn't like I was just like, show me your hand, and I didn't show anything. Like, I was like, oh, yeah, like, this is the only piece of interaction I have is this Tainted Pact.
I mean, to be fair, that's not your main win con.
No.
I wouldn't even call that your second or your third main win con in TNT, right? So,
no.
Fair enough, I suppose. My favorite when I was on Pirates is a scary creature would come down. Some... Not Seedborn, that's a little too scary, but a scary value piece. I'd look around the table, I'd say, man, does anybody have something for this? Like, can anybody deal with this creature? And a lot of the times people wouldn't clock what I was doing, and they would just say, no, like, we can't deal with a creature right now. Sick. Glenhorn?
Yeah.
No, nobody has anything? Counter check? Oh, I can't believe that worked, right? So talking will get you really far in a game, and people will... people will reveal information, even unintentionally, right? Saying, what do you have? Well, I have something for X, but not Y. I have something for an instant, but not a creature. Okay,
Yeah.
that's valuable information to know. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're having these political discussions, right, one of the keys is making sure that you don't inadvertently reveal how down bad you are. You don't want to reveal information that's to some other player's benefit, which can be hard to do in politicking situations. Sometimes there's a level of trust that has to be established. So you have to give up some information, so they will give up some information. But if someone is revealing too much to you in terms of like you've won the intel war, so to speak, right? I've gathered more intelligence than you that I can now access and utilize to my advantage. Well, now you've cut through a lot of the fog that's happening on the board. And just by understanding how these players are operating, understanding the interaction that's left in hand, you will know if your window's open. If someone's got 3 counter spells and they've shown you those 3 counter spells and they're all, it counters everything, right? It's like a Force of Will, a Pact, and a Mindbreak Trap. You're like, okay, shit.
Yeah.
I'm going to be chilling for a while.
Yeah.
Right? And at a certain point, you just probably start sending out big threats to get countered because you kind of need to start getting interaction out of their hands, or you let other players throw out stuff that gets countered. At a certain point, you can also try to politic it and be like, oh, yeah, I think you should counter that. Some players can be talked into it, some players can't be. So it becomes kind of this situationally dependent thing. But that's a great example of my window of opportunity has opened, right? I have now gathered information, or I've seen a large stack war. The other way it can open is by having the instant speed effects, like we kind of talked about earlier. When you're instant speed, you have openings whenever you want, right? If you, like, for example, Seedborn's really scary. That closes your window sometimes because someone is untapping. They're going to be able to see really all the mana that they could ever want. They have access to all their spells again every turn. So how do I deal with a Seedborn? Well, sometimes you just wait for them to tap out at the end of their turn. And then it's like, oh, you tapped out. You don't have any way to handle me now. So I can push a win attempt, and what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, it's like we were talking about earlier, right? A Rogsai, you mulligan for a turn 2 Rhystic Study hand, and that's cool. You have a turn 2 Rhystic Study. If you tapped out for that, they may just push right on through that, you know? And if you don't have the free interaction right then and there, or you don't find the free interaction to stop what they're doing, then that turn 2 Rhystic Study didn't really get you anywhere, right? You drew a lot of cards, you look like the threat at the end of it all, but it doesn't matter if you've lost the game.
Yeah. And especially if you're a turbo deck and you see a player tap out to play Rhystic Study, usually someone else at the table will comment like, well, hey, do you have anything to back up that Rhystic Study? And if they don't, you know that there's a player that's down now. You have to feed into the Rhystic Study a little bit, and they may draw into something, but they may not. And that's kind of has to go into your calculus of, do I feel like I can push through it? So, like, and another good example, when someone taps out to play like a Rhystic Study, especially when you're in a turbo deck, you can consider countering that and even giving the indication that you're going to counter it and see if they're going to politic it or if they're going to respond. And that can also give you some clues, like be like, oh, maybe I'll counter it. Like, I don't know if I want to waste a counterspell there. And then if they're willing to be like, oh, well, you shouldn't because I'll just use my counterspell. They're like, okay, then I know they have a counterspell that I need to play around. These discussions that can happen, right? It doesn't have to be a browbeat. It doesn't have to be we have to talk about this for 15 minutes. It can just be these little nuanced conversations that it's like, hey, I asked you a question. We took 15 seconds to answer it. But I also gleaned information that is relevant to the rest of my game plan moving forward. So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of ways windows can open. Again, it's super deck dependent. We covered probably the 3 most basic ones, but when we do these coaching sessions, we go very, very in depth into really what your deck specifically can do, because sometimes window theory or of opportunities can literally be, oh, I'm a Sisay, I've got 2 activations. I can just go whenever I want. So I'll just wait. It can be, oh, well, they played a Granabalsher and I have a clone. Like, my window's here. They screwed up.
Yeah.
Right?
And I feel like windows also depend on what strategy you're seeking to resolve, right? So for me, I talk about creature combos a lot because that's primarily what I did in Malcolm was the pirate plan, right? Jordan primarily does creature combos. I found that it's easy to resolve creature combos really early because oftentimes people don't keep the force of will. You're not turning mind break trap on. Creatures are extremely hard to deal with. Whereas if you're trying to resolve Thoracle Demcon, a 1-drop instant is one of the easiest things to counter in CEDH, you know? Same with a Necro, right? You have to counter an enchantment. Well, then, Force of Negation's now online. It can get commandeered, right? Swan Song is now online. There's so many different avenues. So it really depends on what your deck is trying to do. Yep. I know Ral tries to resolve a lot of wheels, and prevailing advice, don't let Ral wheel, right?
Let Ral wheel.
Wheels are really easy to counter. Those eat basically every piece of interaction. So it really depends on what you're seeking to resolve and how many resources your opponents have to deal with it, because there are only so many creature kill spells or so many creature counter spells. There are only so many things that can deal with an Underworld Breach on the stack, right? So it all depends on what you're trying to do.
Nope, agreed. So, want to get into our number one most requested question?
Asked question. Yeah.
Asked question.
Yeah.
Our number one most asked question that we get as coaches.
And that is, how do you play against a turbo deck?
Or 2 turbo decks. Or 3 turbo decks.
How do you deal with a turbo pod?
Easily the most common thing we get asked.
Yeah, for sure. Especially so. For me, I have a lot of people ask me, well, what happens when there's a more turbo deck, a deck that's faster than you in the pod in Grixis? So,
in Grixis or Blue Farm? Or both?
In both, honestly, right? Yeah. I would say Rogsai is faster than anything I ever did on Malcolm Vile.
Yeah, that's true.
Ral is faster than most things I did. That's the Torby.
So you guys hear this, right? This is what I deal with on a daily basis. Does this at my office door? Does when I'm in the bathroom. The Torby will not be denied her cuddles and attention.
So for context, I did go off camera for a bit and feed them and do the whole process. And they're still crashing out there. So I think they're telling us it's time for bed.
Probably.
I think it's our bedtime, and they're putting us to bed. The cats run this household, not us.
All right, well, the Torby's in timeout now.
We're back after that Torby intermission.
Torby's in Torby jail. It's not really Torby jail. It's just
our bedroom, which they love.
Wow.
They love.
Sure. Sometimes.
They love.
Not when the door's closed.
They don't like to be confined. They're free spirits.
Sure.
But yeah, number one most asked question, how do you play against Turbo? How do you deal with a Turbo deck when it sits down at the pod? And I think Turbo decks fundamentally change your calculus. And I don't even think this depends on what deck you're playing, right? Just if you're a Turbo deck yourself, sitting up against another Turbo deck changes what you're doing. If you're a mid-range player, it certainly changes what you're doing. So I think this, once again, goes back to the mulligan discussion. You as a player really need to evaluate what you're mulliganing for. And I think Jordan mentioned this before. You have to mulligan for the right type of interaction. So if you're sitting up against a Rogsai player, right, Force of Will, generally great. Pact of Negation, not going to do much for you for those turn 1, turn 2 pushes, except maybe...
Force a draw.
Yeah, politic for a draw, which... probably don't want to do generally. I mean,
I don't want to draw.
Yeah, a point is a point, but what's a draw going to do for you in the grand scheme of things, So silence effects are really good just generally against any turbo deck. If they can't cast spells, you've bought yourself a turn.
Depends. Like, silence is good against, a breach line on the stack, but I find that it's not super effective against a Necro or an Adnaz. Because,
fair.
I silence you, but you get access to all the cards anyway.
That's fair.
So it's like, I'd rather have the counter and just counter the Adnaz or the Necropotence in those situations.
Yeah, but that's where, once again, it's really deck dependent. So, a Rogsai, they're probably going to try to Naz and Necro off as opposed to having just the natural breach line, right? And then... a Ral deck is also probably, like I said, going to try to resolve a wheel or some type of storm strategy to get where they're going.
Silence is good against Ral.
As our friend Hayward learned.
Our teammate Hayward, right?
Yeah.
So, monolith triple pod. It was me, Lily Hayward, and some poor unfortunate soul. I think they were pretty much, they had to go down real low on mulligan, so they were pretty uncompetitive from the beginning. But
And they were playing Malcolm Vile. Malcolm Vile in 4th seat, going to 4 against.
oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
that
was very unfortunate.
Yeah, I don't envy that person.
But poor Hayward.
Hayward was 3rd seat, so I think
I was first.
You're first. I was second. He was 3rd.
This is a top 16 game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, poor
Somebody has to win. Probably for Monolith after he mulliganed so low. Somebody had to win, and it was just so unfortunate.
Hayward got silenced 6 times.
He did. I believe it was silence, Ranger Captain, Orm's Chant, and you had...
Oh, it was silence. He got silenced 5 times. You got silenced once.
Right, but you had the...
Calamity's Wake.
Trigger warning. You had that card.
Because I used it on you.
For him, but I pushed into it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had Hayward's name written all over it. And then when Hayward finally had a turn to do something cool, Lily and I put wins on the stack on top of him.
And Jordan won on top. Shocker. I know. He has a brand, everybody.
No, I don't. Stop giving people my secrets. I don't win on top of anyone, ever. I've never done that, and I never will.
Oh, we're back to gaslighting. All in the same episode. It's crazy.
Deflect.
Deflecting SWAT.
Deflecting palm.
Oh,
I
no.
do damage.
Oh, no.
But yeah, it's hard. Turbo decks, by their very nature, right? I think in a triple turbo pod, it's almost easier. I think double turbo pods are actually a disadvantage to turbo decks because a lot of times it creates paralysis in the decisions. And that's where mid-range decks can really thrive. It's causing that paralysis. You either have to have a very brave or a very reckless turbo player.
A little bit of both.
That's willing to test the waters anyway. Because generally what I've seen, right, is when there's 2 turbo decks in the pod, the first turbo deck will always push into the interaction. So you either have to have faith that the 2 mid-range decks did not try to keep interaction, right? They were just like, screw it, we're going to mull for value and see if we survive. Bad strategy, by the way.
Yeah.
Against double turbo.
Don't do that.
But the first person to push is the person that eats all the interaction. The second person right after just gets to win.
Yep.
So it creates weird game states. Like at the cookout, I played against double Ral in seats 1 and 2.
Yeah.
It was so bad that literally I looked at the player in seat 3 and said, hey.
It was a blue front player. I watched
like,
the end of that pod.
I was like, hey, do you want to compare hands and make sure that we at least survive 2 turns?
Yeah.
So we literally showed each other our opening hands so that we could coordinate surviving the first 2 turns of the game. After that, all bets were off. And we stopped, we weren't collaborating anymore.
Hayward was in that pod too.
See, I was trying
Hayward was one of the RAL players.
I was trying to remember if it was Hayward. This was before he was on Monolith, by the way. But I was trying to remember if it was
Hayward.
Because it was
Hayward and Pigeon, I think.
It was Pigeon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hayward and Pigeon. Yeah, that was terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, the only way to survive that pod is to coordinate a little bit so that we get our turns.
Yeah.
And we did draw that game out. I mean, that's the unfortunate part, right? When you are collaborating that closely and you're both keeping up a lot of interaction to try and stop Rao, it's probably going to go to a draw, like we talked about earlier, keeping hands that do something. Well, when there's double turbo like that, where they also get seats 1 and 2, sometimes all bets are off and we're just trying to survive.
Yeah.
It's kind of context dependent from that situation. But turbo decks can be politicked against, right? Because it always comes down to, do you want to be the first one to push? The player who blinks loses in those situations. You get to take advantage of that paralysis as the mid-range player to politic into that and be like, look, I've got the interaction for you. If I use it on you, the other turbo deck wins. Like, do you want that? What you're trying to do at that point is convince the turbo deck that they're better off waiting for a better window to push. Their window is shut, right? That window is shut. It's nailed. It's over. There's no pushing unless they feel like they can get around your interaction. Great. If you think you can, then do it. But a lot of times you can't. And now you're in a position where it's like, do I just king make the other turbo deck?
Yeah.
So single turbo decks, I actually think this is where you're either at an advantage because triple turbo means everyone's just going to push.
Yeah.
So it's just, I need to go as fast as possible.
That just is what it is at that point.
Yeah, because if you're a mid-range deck in triple turbo, you're just going to go, I'm going to mull for value and hope I see turns. Y'all figure it out among y'all 3. I'm not in this game.
You're going to hope they mulligan low.
I've never
Or you're gonna hope they wheel. They wheel you into something good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, have I ever even sat in a triple turbo pod?
Probably.
I guess kind of.
Yeah.
But like, eventually you convince one of the turbo decks to not turbo and play with you instead. Be like, brother, look, you're seat 3, I'm seat 4. Like, or it's like, even if I'm in seat 1, I'll look at the player in seat 4 and be like, look, bro, like this is where we're at. Like, you could push, or you can work with me and we can draw or something. Like, we can try to survive and see where we're at in 3 turns and see if we can find wins. Sometimes you can find wins. Like, I won a game where it was like a turbo T and K. Like, he built, it was ROG side, but with blue farm cards.
Effects, yeah.
Yeah, and then Italy. And then I think like it was a Derevi or something. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Oh no, it was a Rao. It was Rao, Blue Farm, Italy. And I won.
It's triple turbo.
I won.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, no, y'all figured the fuck out among each other.
Yeah.
I think I convinced the Blue Farm player, like, look, bro, instead of being the turbo Blue Farm, how don't you just kind of, we just do our thing and we'll stop Ral and Italy. And we had just enough to slow them down. And then I courted. And
then it was all history. No, one time I sat in a Vivi Gitrog Monster Blood Pod, and that was interesting.
Well, because the blood pod just kind of stacks everyone out, right? No? Oh, shit. I would assume.
I had to work with the Vivi player to stop the blood pod player and then win after we stopped.
Blood pod fast now? Because I've never played against blood pod. Not since...
Malik was in that pod. It was whatever list Malik was on at the time.
I don't...
I don't know.
Malik's on a different list every week.
I know. I'm aware of his game.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I think when you're in a single turbo pod, kind of bring it back to the discussion and stop getting sidetracked here. When you're in a pod with a single turbo, I like to just ask, right? I'll throw the question out there like, hey, are we all going to agree to mulligan responsibly? What I'm trying to do in those situations is just gauge how responsible players are going to be. A lot of times what I really just want to hear is, yeah, like I'm willing to work with you, or hey, yeah, like I'm going to mull responsibly. Yeah. The idea is like how, like, am I able to make allies during this game, or is it going to be a situation where you're going to be an antagonist against me the entire game, and then I need to like note that, or it's like, hey, you're not willing to work with the group. Well, that means that you're probably going to make greedier plays. Maybe I can take advantage of that at some point down the road. But it also indicates to me how much interaction I need to hold up, right? Because let's say like everyone agrees to mulligan responsibly. Cool. Well, I only probably need to grab a piece, right? That's all I'm looking for. One piece so that I can also mulligan responsibly. We have enough probably between the 3 of us to stop a turbo player. If you say no, well, I might be more inclined to look for a couple more pieces, or maybe a more aggressive hand that lets me push a win. Because if you're just going to be greedy, like let's say I'm in seat 1, right? And the seat 4 player is like, no, makes sense. Why would you give up free information, especially when you're in seat 4?
Sure.
But then I need to notate that, like, if you're not going to be a team player here, that I need to maybe have some extra interaction to deal with, not just the turbo player, but maybe the person that's also going to probably be a little greedy too. Because if they're willing to, start the game by saying like, I'm not willing to work with anybody, that's something that's good to note. It's good to have in your back pocket. So you throw the question out there, sometimes people answer it, sometimes they won't. It's fine. Either way, you get an answer that helps how your decisions are going to go the rest of the game. But really, 1 or 2 pieces of interaction should stop most turbo decks in a single pod.
Yeah.
And I think that's where turbo decks are it's funny because they're both at an advantage and they're also at a disadvantage.
Right.
The advantage is if players don't communicate at all, then sometimes everyone just keeps greedy hands. They're like, oh, it has a plan. It does everything I want it to do. Like, I can't get rid of a turn 2 heuristic study. Sure, but if you don't get a turn 2, right? Turn 2 is a privilege.
Turn 2 is a privilege.
If you don't get a turn 2, then that heuristic study didn't mean anything. Like, should have gotten a swan song. I don't know, right? Those situations happen, and then it's like everybody was greedy. I win. Where you get pods where there's no blue players, then you just laugh your way to the bank. I think the guy who won Steel City said he didn't hit, or he hit like 1 blue deck like the entire time or something like that.
That's an insane run.
Right? Like it was something nutty.
So crazy.
It's like, oh, nobody has interaction ever to stop anything I'm doing ever.
Yeah.
Like sick.
Yeah.
Sure. I guess that's what happens when you have 500 players, right?
That's fair. I find I like playing in single turbo pods, specifically on Blue Farm, because the single turbo deck is typically enough to spook the pod into being responsible, into having these discussions, because at this point, especially if you're playing against other experienced tournament players, we've all been got by Roxai on 2. We've all been got by an Atali flipping into...
Not me. I've never lost to Atali. That's all you. You own that energy.
Get out. This is my podcast now. Get out. Yeah, the Atali on 2 that flips D-Grid, Imperial Seal, and... I don't know what else, right? Food chain, right? Like, just everything that they need.
Suck it, nerd.
Are they Malcolm Glinthorn you really fast?
That's
I know
never-
Jordan knows how that feels.
It's never happened to me.
Okay. So,
I don't even think you play that deck.
I'm going to bring it out of retirement just for you.
I'll have the swords for it.
No, you won't. You cut swords,
I'll snap it.
greedy bastard.
It's going back in now, just because you said that.
Just because I goaded you on camera?
Actually, no, it's going back in because Hexing Sculpture is scary.
No, that's, yeah. Back to the we need to run more removal in the format. But anyway, I find that I like single turbo pods because people are willing to be more communicative about what interaction they're keeping for the most part, right? It allows kind of my more mid-rangey farm to formulate a plan. And one thing about turbo decks that, you can basically count on, they have to push at some point, right?
Yeah.
Because eventually there's only so much patience you can have. There's only so much reasoning with the turbo player. They're looking at these mid-range value decks get going and they're saying, I've got to go.
Yeah.
And
You
if
can't keep up.
yeah, exactly. And if you're fortunate enough to be the one with the Crom, the Fish, the heuristic study, they're going to push into you and they're likely going to create a window.
Yeah.
Now, this is where it can become a little bit of seat order simulator, right? Are you able to immediately capitalize on that window, or do you need to stop 2 other players after the turbo player goes, right? But for the most part, you can rest assured that that turbo player has to go for it, and a window is going to be created for somebody. It may not necessarily be you,
Yeah.
but you need a plan for what's going to happen when that turbo player pushes, whether that's push your own win, hold up interaction, politic
deals,
for a draw, yeah, make deals. Well, if they win, then you win. Let's draw this game right now. Stuff like that. So it all comes down to having a plan for the turbo deck, and I find that's when, myself included, right, most people lose to turbo decks when there isn't a clear plan or that plan isn't executed properly and people keep interaction that doesn't necessarily deal with the threat in front of you, right? So
Yeah.
playing against turbo comes down to being responsible, though, which
Yeah.
players sometimes aren't willing to do. Sometimes their greed consumes them, and that flips on them.
It's play responsible and be willing to communicate, right? There has to be some level of teamwork that exists early to where you can survive and stop the threat. And then from there, it's okay, we'll work on stuff, right? We'll
Yeah.
get to where...
It's dealing with the aftermath, right? Because
Yeah.
if dealing with the turbo deck then becomes, well, we have to let this Seedborn resolve, well, the turbo deck is dealt with, but now we have a different problem, right? So like I said before, this is when the tables can turn on you immediately, and those snowball decks start to snowball, and things get a lot more difficult from there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that's all of our coaching questions that we're going to cover today. Now we're going to transition into talking about kind of the meta. This is how we're going to kind of end our episodes, talking through the meta, while also answering, our players' questions. So kind of how we see the meta right now. I think Blue Farm's still clearly on top. We'll see. I think Rockdrass is on the up.
Oh, yeah.
I think the Lorwyn cards are going to really shift the balance of power. I think Hexing Sculpture is just so good.
It's so good. Green and red stonks are infinitely up.
Like, I really think we're going to see Tim Nadargo get a lot better.
Oh, for sure.
Like, they already had the silencers, but now they have
sure.
an uncounterable silencer.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see Roxai on the rise again.
Always. It always swings back, right?
Yeah, it does.
It goes away, it fades out, it always comes back. It's never truly gone.
Yeah, Rockdrass, I really believe Rockdrass is going to become insane.
Oh, yeah.
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 Like Kinnon's getting some interesting cards. The one I forgot what it is, but it's like an instant. It's 6 mana. It's 4 and 2 blue.
Yeah.
That turns all your.
What's the name of that card?
I don't remember. It's like mirror form or mirror something.
I don't know.
But it turns all of your permanents into target permanents. So let's say I have a Rhystic Study and I've got 8 other permanents on the board, non-land permanents. I've got 8 other non-land permanents. I now make 8 Rhystic Studies plus my original. So I have 9 Rhystic Studies.
They also got that, I believe it's a 4-drop where it says essentially counter all spells on the set.
I don't think they'll play that.
You don't think so?
No. 4 mana to counter stuff. I just don't. Plus,
you win the interaction war at that point for a nominal amount of 4 mana.
I mean, that's a lot of mana to hold up, though.
Not in Kinnan. Have you played against Kinnan recently?
I don't know. I don't see that. Like, if you're going to play something with 4 mana, it's got to be, like, impactful, like Flash Photography. Right? I don't think they play that. Because, like, even TNT, we were talking about it because it makes the blue and black fairy tokens.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I don't think TNT plays it.
No.
I do believe it's double blue pips.
It is. It's double blue and 2.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you guys justify that.
No. The card is weird. Like, it's good, but it's way overcosted.
It is way overcosted.
It's probably not overcosted.
That's it. We're CEDH pilled. We want it to be cheap.
We use 2 mana, it'd be insta play.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I wouldn't even hesitate. That card would be gross.
Another thing you can cut Grand Abolisher for.
Yeah. Sure. I don't know that I cut that one. I still have to get Formidable Speaker into the deck.
You do.
Yeah, no, I think green decks are going to rise. I think red decks are in an interesting spot. I don't think... So, like, Timna Crom, right? I don't think Timna Crom actually got a lot from this set.
No, not at all.
They might run Squelcher.
Maybe.
I think they
Questionable? I think we do, too.
Because it's uncounterable.
It is.
Like, I think if you're red, you just run this card.
Especially if you're on the farm variant, it's essentially Rog Sai with silence effects. This is yet another way to jam that your opponents probably aren't going to have a way to deal with. And you politic, hey, I'm blue farm, and people may not know what blue farm variant you're running because there is a decent amount of variance in it now. And, you win the game.
No, I agree. I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't see any red deck not running this card, except for maybe like Magda, because they just don't cast spells.
No, they don't. They don't care about that.
And like 5-color decks that are like Sisay. Because other 5-color turbo decks definitely run this card.
Oh, for sure. Terra, Isika.
Well, it's also easy to get into because all your red rituals.
That's true.
Yeah. Atali's going to be eating well.
That dino is eating well.
Yeah. At that point, you're literally only afraid of Mindbreak Trap.
Yeah.
It's like the only card that actually does anything to your deck now.
I think it remains to be seen where the meta will go following this episode. We're going to go one of 2 ways, like we said in the beginning, right? We're going to speed up and everybody's going to try to become the problem, or we're going to slow down and everybody's going to try to deal with the problem. And it may be one of those situations where we swing really fast for a month or 2 and then it settles into this control grind fest where we say, hey, stop it. Turbo's done enough. Stop it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think this weekend, the Force Fight's going to be really interesting to see.
It is.
Because this will be the first Lorwyn cards are legal.
Yep.
Relatively decent-sized event.
Yep.
But we're going to get a good sample size.
We are. Good players, good turnout. Yeah. We'll get to see truly the first sneak peek at what the meta is going to do and how people are reacting to the cards. If there's any interesting tech. I know some people were joking about subtlety as a way to deal with Squelcher and other niche little interactions. So I'm curious to see what spice comes out of all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
It is.
So, prediction for Force Fight. What do you think your record is going to be?
My record?
Yeah.
Okay. How many rounds are we at? Is this 5 rounds?
Let's say we get to 80. I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
Actually, we're at 77? Yeah, I mean, 80 to 90 is where it's going to be 6 rounds probably.
6 rounds.
5 to 6.
5 to 6. Okay. I think I will go 3-1-2.
That's crazy. Without even knowing who's in your pod, you think you're just going to crush everybody?
No.
Do you guys see this arrogance?
No.
See the arrogance here?
No.
Crazy.
I think it's a very mid Blue Farm record.
I'm going 6-0-0.
Okay.
Undefeated.
Well. Anyways, I hope you get Hexing Squelcher to your first game.
That's really rude. Ivy, get Calamity's Wake.
Oh, that's rude. Nobody runs that but you.
I know. I hope it's me.
I don't want to see you round one. I will go home.
If you see us round one and we're in a pod together, just know it's a bad start to the day.
Yeah.
It's a very bad start.
We will make divorce jokes in front of you. I'm sorry.
They might not be jokes. Depends on how bad the pod gets.
It depends on if he Calamities wakes me.
I will. We'll do it. We'll do it for the memes.
Oh my God.
They'll be great memes.
What do you think your record's going to be, for real?
I don't know.
You asked me.
I know. I just want to see what you say. TNT.
TNT. What's it doing? Are you farming or are you not farming?
I think I'm going to get 13 points.
13 points.
So 2 wins, 3 draws.
Oh, that's reasonable.
I don't know if that's enough. 6 rounds are weird.
6 rounds is awkward. I don't like it.
So, I don't know. I just have a weird feeling it'll be 13 points. I'll draw. I feel like I'm going to draw a lot.
That's fair.
There'll be a loss in there. I'll do something stupid and lose a game.
Yeah. I don't like 6 rounds because it makes breakers feel weird.
The math is weird.
I never have a good feel of where I'm at.
I do think it should go always from 1, 3, or sorry, it should be 3, 5, 7.
3, 5, 7.
Or 2, 3, 5, 7, because 2 rounds is fine for 16.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, single elim. Mm-hmm. I hate single elim, but it's fine.
It's a viable strategy, but
Which is funny because I literally just set up a single elim tournament on Fridays locally. It's the only way to get it to work, right? We can't fire 3 rounds. It's too many rounds.
Not with 16 people.
Plus a top cut. Well, it's not even that. It's time.
The store doesn't even have enough the hours.
You need 6 hours for a 3-round cut to 4?
Yeah.
Probably more than that even. 8? No, it's probably not quite that many. Right, it's 80, 60, 160, 240, plus 3-hour untimed round.
Yeah.
Untimed. That's still a lot of hours, actually.
Yeah.
That's still 6 hours. I was right. That's it's so much time.
Yeah.
CEDH takes forever.
CEDH does take forever. Maybe not, though. Maybe not with the new cards. Maybe it'll stop taking forever.
We build the worst stack of all time to make it start taking forever.
Top 16 games always take forever.
Not for me. I lose really fast in top 16s. Or I win really fast. There's no...
I have seen you grind so many top 16s.
Game 1.
The Boyle 2.
All right, touche. We were there for a while.
Yes, I'm aware.
All right, well, I think that's going to be all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us. This was really exciting for us to be able to finally put together our first episode. I know we're going to probably have some issues, glitches along the way. Yeah. We'll get them ironed out. Yeah. So this will be fun.
Yeah, and comment any questions or anything you want in the comment section for our next episode. I know we talked about mulligan decisions, so if you just want to throw a hand in there that you've really questioned in your practice games that you just want to see our thoughts on, go ahead and do so. We kind of created this channel to help the community at large and to kind of field questions that maybe you don't think warrants a complete coaching session. Maybe you don't want to pay the $45 to $50 for the niche question, or maybe you simply can't, right? We want to be accessible to people, so, drop your questions down below. We have a lot of fun doing this, and we hope you guys have a lot of fun watching.
Yep, this is going to be fun. We're really excited to start this journey with you, and again, hopefully this channel provides high-quality content, and it's valuable to players, and they find it helpful, so...
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what the future holds.
For sure.
So, once again, want to thank our sponsors, Land Go. Again, we're going to be at the Forest Fight this weekend. Just looking forward to seeing everyone there. Until next time. See you.
Bye, guys.